Hello and welcome back to another in-depth weather video. Today we're going to be talking about Tropical Depression 26, which has just formed just about 4 minutes ago when I'm recording this. It was potential Tropical Cyclone 26, it has now become Tropical Depression 26, and right now it has maximum sustained winds of 35 miles an hour, minimum central pressure of 1,006 millibars, and is moving west-northwest at 9 miles an hour. Now, this is expected to kind of split the gap here between the Yucatan and Cuba and eventually make an impact on the Gulf Coast as a potential hurricane. But first, we're just going to look at the cone here where we can really see this out here. So, might split the gap, maybe possibly something in Cuba, but I don't think that we're going to see a strong land impact if this hits Cuba first. So if it splits the gap, I think that this can go major. If it hits Cuba, it'll probably end up being either a Cat 1 or a Cat 2 at landfall in Louisiana. But, of course, there is plenty of time in between now and then. This is Friday, so we have an entire week. But right now, it's a tropical depression, expected to become a tropical storm pretty quickly. Now, there are already tropical storm warnings out for some islands northwest of Jamaica, and then there's tropical storm watches and hurricane watches in western Cuba for this storm. Now, remember, this is kind of getting steered around Gamma, because Gamma is right over here, and that's going to be moving this way, kind of giving this a path right into the Gulf of Mexico. So, if Gamma wasn't there, we might see a completely different path out of this, possibly more to the east or more to the west. But it only has one real path here, and we'll look more into that when we get to the models. But let's move on here to the arrival time of winds with wind speed probabilities turned on. You can see the highest wind speed probabilities are actually over the Gulf of Mexico, and the wind speed actually decreases as it actually gets closer to land after Wednesday at 8 p.m. at the earliest arrival time of winds. Now, you can see that once it makes landfall in Cuba, that kind of goes down a little bit, but not much. So if it does make landfall in Cuba there, possibly there's a little bit of an impact. I think that the impact won't be short term, I think it would be long term. And that's what we're kind of seeing here. That if it makes landfall in Cuba, western Cuba there, obviously it won't be over land for long, but I think that's just enough time to limit this a little bit and kind of restrain it. But if it goes just to the west there, it has plenty of time over open waters to really strengthen. It could become major. Plenty of areas in this wind field here, from Texas all the way down the coast of Florida and even to the Yucatan and Jamaica. So plenty of areas in the impacts of this storm. Now if we go to wind speed probabilities and go to hurricane wind speed probabilities, you can see right now very low, 30 to 40 at the most. But that, again, take it with a grain of salt. This is very far out, so we definitely have to watch that. Now, if this does get named, it will be Tropical Storm Delta. So, just for reference, I did confirm that the record is 27 named storms. If this does get named, that'll be 25. So, if we get to Ada, I believe that's how you pronounce it, I believe that would be a new record. So, we're very close to that mark, and they're anticipating us breaking this record during this month. So, very, very weird hurricane season. But let's move on here. Potential Tropical Cyclone 26, now Tropical Depression 26. This is the satellite imagery. You can see that it's definitely trying to become organized, but I believe there's a little bit of shear, and I think that's the reason why this was first a potential tropical cyclone. But now that it's starting to get better organized, it'll start to increase in wind speeds, and then we'll see this become a tropical storm. Current storm information. So, global and hurricane models kind of showing that path here, but you can see that the cluster here is very widespread, and some are showing that it makes landfall in Cuba, some aren't, and that's why I'm saying here it does matter. It matters a lot. And then of course we have plenty of variety here. And then I believe that this is an outlier, but generally this area of the Gulf Coast that's been impacted by so many storms this year. Cristobal, Laura, Marco, Sally, just to name a few. So this area has really been the target zone for these storms. GFS ensembles kind of showing that this will get some really good intensity here. So I think at the lowest they're 983 millibars at 120 hours, and this does show it splitting that gap between Cuba and the Yucatan. GEPS kind of showing that landfall, and it shows a minimum central pressure of 999 millibars, so a huge difference in pressure there. But intensity guidance. Now, a few models here showing Cat 3. I think that this comes down to timing and track. So, if it tracks through that gap, I think that Category 3 is more likely. If it makes landfall in Cuba, I think Category 2 is more likely. And if it really doesn't start rapidly intensifying, if it really doesn't start intensifying in the next 24 hours, if it doesn't become a mid-strength tropical storm in 24 hours, and it's just low strength, I think it gets to Category 1. That's it. So, definitely have to watch this closer, because if it strengthens quickly closer to now than toward landfall, I believe that strengthening would continue through the Gulf, and we've seen rapid intensification in the Gulf before. Weather nerds just want to show the European ensemble here. This also shows it going through Cuba, so I think that is what the National Hurricane Center is kind of taking into account. But GFS, so we're watching this right here. This is gamma, and then we have a high pressure here. Now, you can see gamma kind of starts to go into the Bay of Campeche, or Campeche, however you say it, allowing this to just kind of ride right over it, take some of that energy. See how it kind of picks up that energy? That might be very important if that actually happens. Then it has all this time over the Gulf to strengthen, make landfall, and then it moves almost straight north into Canada. Now, it kind of stays kind of strong through some of the Mississippi River Valley and into the Ohio River Valley before it kind of gets torn apart. So I think that now you see this high pressure here kind of steers this in, and gamma steers it this way as well. So it kind of has a very short area that it can go through, and that's kind of putting it right in here. So definitely have to watch this. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.